In the past few years, when I've been asked by beginners in the gaming peripheral space what mouse they should buy, I have always said the G Pro Superlight. The main reason for this being that the shape is extremely safe for all hand sizes and allows for most people to find a comfortable way to grip the mouse. That is until the Viper V3 Pro was released. Upon receiving this mouse, I didn't know what to expect, but after using it for a few months now, I can genuinely say that this is my favorite mouse on the market. This shape is a one size fits all. I just put my hand on the mouse and no matter what grip I'm going for, this shape allows for something to feel comfortable. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's really how it feels, but let's dive a little bit deeper. We can start with the shape and the weight. As far as the shape goes, this is basically an elevated Viper V2 Pro. When looking at Elo shapes, you can see here that the hump sits in a very similar spot and is just lifted more vertically, although this does make for a much more comfortable experience than the V2 Pro in my opinion. The V3 Pro has a much more rounded hump that I feel allows for better inner palm contact and makes claw and palm grip much more comfortable than on the V2 Pro. This change makes the mouse much closer feeling to the GPX, which has more of a center hump that also fills the palm very nicely. The sides on the V3 Pro flare in a little bit less than on the V2 and in my opinion feel great. This mouse feels much thinner than the GPX despite looking similar in width. It allows for a more locked in grip for the thumb, ring, and pinky fingers. I felt this change a lot in my aim where micro adjustments just felt better on the V3 Pro than on the GPX. I will say though, if you're someone that likes contact on the top of your palm, for most hand sizes, it's not going to provide that. If you look here, you can see that the GPX is touching much more of this section of my palm than the V3 Pro does, but personally, I enjoy that the V3 Pro doesn't contact me in this spot. It will all come down to personal preference at the end of the day, though. I will say that if you're someone who strictly fingertips mice, then you may have a hard time fingertipping this unless you have huge hands, but I do feel that even fingertip users will be able to find a comfortable grip because this shape is just so accommodating. As far as the weight goes, the V3 Pro is coming in at 55 grams, whereas a stock GPX is 60 grams. My GPX 2 does have a weight reduction mod, which brings it down to 53 grams, but I wouldn't recommend doing this because it can hinder the sensor performance. Nevertheless, because of the weight balancing on the stock GPX, the V3 Pro feels noticeably lighter despite only being 5 grams different. Call me schizo, but I can feel the difference. I feel like anywhere from 45 to 60 grams is really the sweet spot, especially for palm and claw grip users, but that's also just my opinion. Next, we can cover the clicks and side buttons. The main clicks on this mouse are using Razer opticals, and I have absolutely no issues with them. Now, since the main competitor of this mouse is the GPX, I will say that these clicks feel much more spammable than the GPX 2. The clicks on my copy aren't the lightest, but by no means are these hard to click. These do not feel as pronounced as the GPX 2 clicks. I know a lot of people dislike Logitech clicks for this reason, but I really didn't mind them. I would say that the Razer implementation is just much more mellow and I personally enjoy it more. The main clicks have pretty much no pre-travel and negligible post-travel. There is also no side-to-side wobble or grinding, which is amazing to see. They feel great in game. I know there is some latency nerds out there, so according to Rtings, on the 8K hertz, this thing is averaging about 1 milliseconds of click latency. It just feels so damn responsive in game. There really isn't much to say about the side buttons. They are positioned perfectly for my liking and are not mushy by any means. This is, however, an advantage of the V3 Pro over the GPX, as the GPX side buttons are a mushy mess. There's also pretty much no pre or post travel on these either. Lastly, the scroll wheel is pretty standard. It's light and the steps feel well done. The scroll wheel click feels solid and is very easy to press. As far as the build quality goes, it's literally flawless. I can squeeze the sides of this thing with full force and there is no creaking or give at all. There is nowhere that I touch this mouse that it feels like a weak point. It's just an absolute tank. If you're someone who wants to buy a mouse and main it for a long time, this is a great option because this thing feels the same as it did 2 or 3 months ago when I first got it. This mouse is also rocking the smooth touch coating that has been on a few different Razer products now. It's a matte rubberized coating that I have no complaints about. I heard that the white version here has a more rubberized grippy coating. If you do have super sweaty hands, then maybe go for the white edition. I honestly just threw the grips on because I was bored. The coating is absolutely fine. There's no need for grips. I just wanted to throw it on just because. Now we can get into the nitty gritty of the sensor implementation. This thing thing is rocking a 3950, but it is Razer's implementation of the 3950. They're calling it the Razer Focus Pro Gen 2, which from my understanding means it is not the exact same as the prior 3950 Razer was using, but to be honest, it does feel pretty identical. I know there's been a lot of discussion about 3950s since every company is using them now. Basically, people are saying that there's different versions of the sensor and certain companies are using the higher quality one and other companies are using the cheaper, more readily available one. That's neither here nor there. This thing feels absolutely great, and I would have to say feels more responsive than some of the 3950 mice I have been using recently. It might just be me, but when using anything over 360 Hz, the difference between 8K Hz polling and 1K Hz is definitely noticeable. I know there is some kid out there playing on a Chromebook saying that it's placebo, but I promise you, buddy, with the right hardware, it is a distinguishable difference. This mouse does come included with the 8K Hz dongles, so there's no need to purchase a separate one like you have to with the hyperspeed editions. At the end of the day, if you want the best of the best tech, this is definitely it. The battery life on 8K Hz is not the best, but that's kind of just the trade-off of 8K Hz. I'm getting about 2 days of gameplay on a full charge, and on 4K Hz, something around 4 days. I plug my mouse in every night, so this really isn't a big deal for me, but if this bothers you, just play on 1K Hz, man. I didn't hate the stock skates on this mouse. Currently, I have Yanzi dots on it. I had core pads on it at 1.2. It's not necessary to switch them, but I kind of just did it just because. Overall, I really feel like this is just the best it gets currently. The shape is amazing. The weight is not too heavy, not too light. The optical clicks feel very responsive. It's the best sensor we've seen on a mouse to date. It's a steep price of $150, but if you're not an enthusiast and you get the mouse, I don't think you'll need to buy a new one for at least 2 years, if not more. This mouse has definitely risen to my top 3 alongside the finalmouse ULX and the GPX 2. I will have a review of the ULX here very soon, so stay tuned for that. I really do hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure you leave a like and subscribe, and I will talk to you all in the next one. Peace.